So in this lecture, we are going to discuss about conservation laws of mass and momentum using the integral and differential form. So first we are going to do is we are going to learn about conservation of mass using the integral form itself. Okay. So aim of the following lecture is nothing but how we can use this kind of equations in our numerical itself from gate point of view.
Don't forget to hit the like button, and if you like what we do, please subscribe.
Okay, so we are starting with the basic itself. You have heard about control volume in your BTech itself. So control volume is nothing but it is the space of spatial interest for the particular analysis itself. So for example, if you want to analysis about the rate of change of mass, you can just have a particular volume in the space with reference to a particular spatial coordinate system, which can be either stationary or it can be rotating itself. It depends upon you itself how you are going to draw your analysis. Okay, so that's a control volume, and the surfaces bounding the control volume are called as the control surfaces. So for example, if you want to analyze a turbine, you have to make a control volume around a turbine, then you are going to study for the turbine itself. You have done it many times in your propulsion also. Okay, now let us discuss about the conservation of mass over here. So as you know that for a particular system which you are considering, over here, it will be having a pretty much constant mass. It will be not varying, because you know that mass can neither be created nor be destroyed for a particular system. So if I'm having a particular system over here, I will be saying that mass is pretty much constant. So if my mass is constant, then I can say that rate of change of mass is also zero itself. Okay, so rate of change of mass for a system is zero, that I can say that. Okay, so my mass of system, I can write it as follow for the particular system under consideration as that this is a total mass over here. So if I assume a very small chunk over here, namely of mass dm, then in order to get back the system mass over here, I have to integrate the whole system with respect to this small mass dm. I know that mass is nothing but it is density into volume itself. Then I can write the following formula in the form of control volume as follow, that for the control volume system which I am considering over here, it will be equal to rho dv. dv is the smallest volume which I am taking over here, which I am considering over here. Now mind the fact that I have taken rho inside that of integral over here, which can mean that rho can be varying according to my coordinate system over here, which I'm taking over here. Okay, rho can be uniform or it cannot be uniform. As you know that dv is nothing but dx, dy, dz itself. You have done the 3 degree integral in your BTech first year course also. So rho can be also a function of x, y, z also. Okay, from mathematical point of view, I'm saying all these things over here. Now let us discuss about the Newton's second law. So as you know that from the 12th class itself, Newton's second law is nothing but it is the rate of change of momentum itself. Okay, so those of you who are thinking that Newton's second law is nothing but ma, then it is not ma, it is just a variation of rate of change of momentum over here. Okay, so it's a specialized case. Okay, so I'm not going to do the whole derivation over here, just I'm going to the specific point over here that Newton's second law is nothing but the rate of change of momentum, and I know that momentum is nothing but it is the multiple of mass into velocity over here. Okay, the direction of momentum is in the direction of the velocity itself. So here I can write it as follow, that d by dt of mass into velocity. Fine with that. So what I can do over here is I can just write the system momentum as follow, that for a system which I'm considering for myself, which is under the analysis, I can write it as follow, that v dm, the smallest chunk of the system which I'm considering. For the control volume, I can write it as follow, because I know that mass is nothing but rho into density. So v rho dv, rho is inside the integral. Fine with that. So that's your Newton second law itself. Okay, now let us have the discussion of angular momentum. Now in this class we are going to discuss basically about the mechanics itself. So that's why I've taken the angular momentum case over here. So as you know that angular momentum is nothing, it is r cross p. R is the position vector, p is the momentum itself, the linear momentum itself. So for example, if you are having your Cartesian coordinate system as follow: x, y, z, this is your origin 0 0 0. You are having a point particle p over here which is running with a velocity v vector. Then you are going to show it by a r vector with a position vector. Now in order to get your angular momentum with respect to this 0 0 0 point over here, what you can write it as follow: r cross p. Okay, the cross product in between your position vector and the momentum carried by this discrete particle over here. Fine with that. Now this is a discrete particle. We are not considering about the discrete particle itself. We are considering, or we are more concerned about the case of the rigid body particles itself. Okay, as you know that from the aerospace point of view. Okay, so what I'm going to do over here is I'm going to twist the particular formula, because from the mechanics point of view I know that for a rigid body L will be equal to I into omega. Okay, so this, if this is a particular body I am taking, then I is the moment of inertia from the particular axis which I am considering, and omega is the angular velocity about which this particular body is rotating about this particular axis xx dash. Okay, but from our point of view, from aerospace point of view, as you know that angular momentum is depending upon this p, and this p from this previous relation is depending upon this thing over here. So this is for rigid body itself. This is for rigid body itself, because you are taking a smallest chunk of your particular body itself which is under consideration. So here I can write the angular momentum as r cross v dm for the system under consideration of constant mass. So for the volume I can write it as follow: r cross v rho into dv. Fine with that. Now let me tell you one more thing about torque. Torque is nothing but it is r cross f, because it is nothing but it is rate of change of your angular momentum. So it is r cross f. Now here you will be seeing that if I open this particular cross product, then I will be getting r sine theta into f. R sine theta is nothing but the perpendicular component of the position vector into the force F, or I can write it as follow: R into F perpendicular component, because F sine theta will be the perpendicular component of your force itself. So we have done a very simple case in that of the cylinder, concentric cylinder. If you haven't seen the video yet, you can see that in the playlist itself. We have done the following thing about the torque in that particular question also. We have used this particular methodology over there of the mechanics. So we know that torque is nothing but dl by dt itself. So we know that L vector is this for the rigid bodies. Okay, so we are going to take the rate of change of L vector over here. Now torque over here, this torque is due to these three factors itself. First factor is your body forces. Second factor is the surface forces, because you are considering a surface, okay, a control volume, and it will be having the surface. Okay, so whatsoever forces will be acting on the surface of your particular volume itself, or your particular system under consideration itself, will be giving you the surface forces, and that will be accounted in our torque itself. That should be accounted in our torque itself. And third and the last thing is the external torques which we are giving to the system itself by external means itself. Okay, so these are the three components of the torque which should be accounted in the problem itself. So body forces, as you know that if you are considering any particular body over here, let us consider this particular body over here. So if you are considering this particular body, then it will be having a smallest chunk of mass tm. Okay, and because we know that body forces is nothing but it is due to the virtue of the gravity itself. So for example, your weight is nothing mg, which is your body forces. So we have to account the torque created by this particular weight over here, which can be written as follow, which is r cross, because it is a body force, force is nothing but it is m dv by dt itself, that is mass into acceleration, and acceleration due to gravity force is nothing but acceleration due to gravity. So r cross g into dm. Okay, you have to integrate it for the whole system in order to find your body force. Fine with that. Now regarding the surface forces, let us say that you are having a surface force fs on your system, acting on your system. So torque due to surface forces will be r cross Fs. It will be R cross Fs, the cross product in between the position vector which you are taking and the Fs, the surface force which is acting on your system. So torque due to surface force will be something like this. You have to account this particular parameter over there. Then the external torque which you are giving by any mean, which will be a constant value, which will be having a constant value itself. You have to accommodate that also. So torque will be this plus this plus this, the addition of all these three. Okay, if all these three are in the system, then you have to account for all these three. If they are not in the system, then you can eliminate any of them which is not in the system itself. So that's the angular momentum concept over here. Now let us discuss about first law of thermodynamics over here. So let us consider our system as follow. Okay, so first law of thermodynamics is nothing but it is the conservation of the energy. So it says that your total energy is nothing but it is the energy which is you are giving to your system or you are taking out of the system, minus the work done which you are giving to the system or you are taking out of the system itself. Now regarding the sign convention over here, if I am giving energy to my system, it will be considered as positive. If I'm taking out the energy, it is considered as to be negative. If I'm giving work to my system, then it is considered as to be negative. And if my system is doing the work, then it is considered as to be positive over here. Okay, so if I take the rate of change of the energy over here, then I will be getting the following equation. Then I know that for the whole system, I can write the E for the system as follow, that it will be nothing but it will be equal to the, for the considering system over here, I'm taking a very small chunk and I'm integrating energy per unit mass with respect to this chunk over here. Okay, within the boundaries to get the whole energy of my system over here. Fine with that. Now in order to write it in the volume form also, what I can do is, I know that mass is nothing but this density into volume itself, so I can write it in to this particular form also. Now you know that this particular E over here from the Bernoulli equation, if you recall, it will be equal to the internal energy, specific internal energy which your system is having or your fluid element is having, plus the kinetic head, plus the potential energy which your fluid system is carrying. Okay, fluid element is carrying, that you have to remember. Fine with that. Now let us talk about the Reynolds transport theorem. So in the earlier slide, we were calculating about d by dt of E, d by dt of L, d by dt of P itself. And I haven't written anything about these three guys over there in the previous slides also. So now we are going to calculate all these three guys in this particular slide. So Reynolds transport theorem gives the solution for all these three guys over here, the rate of change of these properties. Now, if I have seen these three properties, then you have noticed the fact that all these three were extensive properties. So Reynolds transport theorem is for the extensive properties. He says that if you are considering any kind of extensive parameter n, then you can write the rate of change of that particular parameter for the system as follow. Okay, you have to write this particular equation for that. Now let me just tell you what these things are over here. Eta is nothing but your property which you are considering over here upon the mass of the system. So it's kind of the specific value of that property. Now if I say something specific, then you are going to divide it by the mass itself. So this first thing over here is nothing but it is the rate of change of the amount of the property which you are taking. So I can say that it is rate of change of amount of property n inside in the control volume itself. Fine with that. So for example, if you are taking n as your momentum itself, so you know that momentum is nothing mv itself. So eta will be equal to v vector itself. Okay, so this first thing over here is nothing but it will compute the rate of change of your momentum inside the control volume, and this particular integral over here is nothing but it is computes the instantaneous amount of momentum inside your control volume. So it computes the instantaneous amount of property in your control volume. Now this second term over here, just let me switch my pen over here. This second term over here, as you can see that it is related to something to your flux. Okay, as from the 12th class if I recall. Okay, so I know that it is something related to my flux itself. So it is nothing, it is the rate at which my property n, which I am taking over here, is exiting the surface of the control volume. Fine with that? So that you have to remember. Okay, now for example, again, if you have taken n as your p itself, that is your momentum, then your eta will be v itself. So this eta p v dot dA, here eta will be equal to v itself. Okay, so this thing over here, if we have taken the example, will compute the net flux of momentum out of the control volume. Net flux of momentum out of control volume. Fine with that? For the control surface. So that's your Reynolds transport theorem itself. Okay, I've written formal definitions over here. You can just write them down. Now let us discuss about the conservation of mass. Okay, so as you know that the mass conservation principle is very much simple, that mass of the entire system remains constant. So I can just say that d by dt for the system itself is 0. Now using the Reynolds transport theorem, we know that dn by dt for the system, I can just simply write it down as dou by dou t eta rho, and if I recall, it will be dv plus for the control system itself. Now this is for the control volume, this is for the control system, eta rho v dot dA. Now you have to just simply remove the eta over here. So eta will be m by m, which is nothing but unity over here. So d by dt of m will be equal to dou by dou t rho dv for the control volume plus rho v dA equal to 0 for the control surface. So this is the expression you are getting over here, okay, from the formulation itself after applying the Reynolds transport theorem. Now it will be equal to 0, okay, because you are calculating for the rate of change of the mass over here. Now let us discuss these two terms over here. So here I can say that dou by dt of rho dv control volume must be equal to minus of rho v dot dA control system. So this is nothing but it is the rate of increase of mass in the control volume, rate of increase of mass in control volume, and this is nothing but it is the net influx of the mass, net influx of the mass. So definitions are pretty much same as we have seen in these two guys over here, okay, just you can recall them. So definitions are pretty much same. Now if the mass inside your control volume which you are considering or which is under your consideration is not increasing, that is you are having a continuity over there, okay, that your mass inside the control volume is not increasing, that is the rate of increase of the mass in the control volume is exactly equal to that of the rate of the mass which is going outside that of the control volume. So that is nothing but it is your continuity equation itself, that your mass is conserved, okay, mass is not changing. Now if you are having a rate of change of mass inside your control volume itself over here, then it will be due to the net inflow of the fluid inside of your control volume. Okay, that's pretty much simple. If you are having an increasing mass in your control volume, then something should be lending or something should be giving you the necessary mass within your control volume itself. Okay, then it will be due to the mass coming inside of your system itself. Fine with that? So that you have to remember. Now it's a very short talk over v dot dA over here. I've seen very many people making a mistake in this particular term over here, the flux term. As you can see, v dot dA is nothing but it is v dA cos theta, the angle in between v vector and dA vector. Okay, so for example, this is your control surface which you are taking, and this is your dA vector, that is the contact normal reaction to this control surface. Okay, and this is the velocity vector. They are making an angle in between both of them. If your velocity is going outside that of the system, if your mass is going outside that of the system, if you are having the outflow itself, then as you can see that the angle in between the A and the V is acute angle. It is less than that of 90 degree. Now if there is an inflow in your system, then you can see that velocity and the area vector is making an angle greater than that of the 90 degree over here. Now let us talk about the special cases over here. Okay, so first thing is when you are having the incompressible fluid, so your rho is constant. So if my rho is constant, I can take the rho common. If I take rho common and put it over here, I will be getting the following equation. Fine with that. So now we are having a non-deformable control volume. Second case is non-deformable control volume over here with rho equal to constant, incompressible non-deformable control volume. So if my V is constant over here, so I can say that dV by dt will be 0 because dV will be equal to 0. Okay, so I will be left with this particular equation over here. Now you will be saying that, sir, we can apply this particular equation in the case of steady problem only. But let me tell you that this case can also be applied in the case of unsteady problem, because here as you can see your dV is constant. Because your dV is constant, your dV by dt is not changing. Okay, so don't get confused that we cannot apply this in the case of the unsteady problem. Okay, dV is constant, so that's why you are having dV equal to 0 over here. Fine with that, that you have to consider. Now you can approximate the following case by this discrete case over here. So instead of taking whole integral over here, you can just take one area at a time and volume velocity associated with that particular area at that time itself. Okay, so you have to what you are going to do over here is you are going to discretize the system itself. You are considering one area and velocity associated with that particular area, then you are going to account in your equation. For example, let me take an example over here. We are having a pipe flow over here. These are the boundaries. So this is the velocity inlet, area inlet, and let us say that it is tapering as follow. And this is velocity outlet and area outlet. So for this particular system, what I can write as velocity inlet, area inlet minus, because as you can see that area inlet will be having this particular normal vector. So the angle is 180 degree. For this case, as you can see that the angle is 0 degree itself. So V out, A out, and the angle is 0 degree itself. So it will be 1 must be equal to 0 according to continuity. So A1 V1 equal to A2 V2. So what I have done is I have just taken the particular area over here and the velocity associated with that particular area. Okay, so that's the approximate case. These are two formulas for the volume flow rate. Okay, you can just note it down. Now let us discuss for the case of the steady but compressible flow. So for the compressible flow, you are not going to take density out of the equation itself. You're going to consider the density within inside the equation itself. But because the flow is steady, so you are saying that it is not varying with the time. So I'm getting rid of this first equation over here. I'm not going to have this particular equation. So what I'm remaining with this particular equation, the flux equation itself. Fine with that. So I'm taking that into the account. Again, this is the approximate form. So for a steady flow, the mass flow rate into the control volume must be equal to the mass flow rate out of the control volume of the system.